This is Eric Pepke for Dead Bad Video. This video is systemic racism. Now, once again, I apologize for the quality of this. I'm still unable to edit, so I have to release it as a playlist. Also, I'm sitting outside to do it because it's such a beautiful day. The sky is darkling. The sun will probably go down more and the lighting will get worse, but if anybody actually sees this video, the point is not to look at my ugly mug anyway. So, I love YouTube. It's really fantastic. The quality of the videos, and more importantly, the ideas presented in the videos are pretty awesome. The experience, I think, is better than going to college. And the quality of the ideas is pretty good. Everybody says, oh, there's a lot of information, blah, blah, blah. But you can tell the difference, really. And honestly, there's quite a lot of nonsense in college, too. I saw a couple of videos that were very interesting. I saw one on the history of strawberries. And I didn't know what it was about. I thought it was going to be about the development of strawberries, because many of our foods have been developed. Broccoli, for example, didn't exist until the late 19th century. It was invented by somebody who, not surprisingly, was named Broccoli. And so one takeaway from that is that if you think that you can eat food that has not been genetically modified, you're wrong. This kind of stuff has been going on for a very, very, very long time. We're just a little better at it. And pretty much everything we eat, including, lamb, has been genetically modified pretty systematically for a very long time. But what it was really about was about the word strawberry and the popularity of strawberries, etc. The best hypothesis was that they were strewn berries originally, in whatever precursor of modern English was around then. But look, you can order one strewn berry margarita, but by the time you get to 4, you're really going to want to say something easier to say, like strawberry. A surprising amount of English and all other languages, the diachronic history is based on what was hard to say and how it got changed to make it easier to say, including some very, very complex morphophonemic changes and a lot of grammar, too. So I saw another video by a linguist named John McWhorter. Now, when I was in federal political prison, I got to read his book, What Language Is, and I enjoyed it very much. Going into politics seems unavoidable for linguists, and that's probably because you only have to listen to one political speech for a very short period of time to realize that there's something really, really funky going on there. So what happens is a lot of linguists decide they want to talk about politics, including Friedrich Nietzsche. But McWhorter has gotten most famous, and most of his videos are about his commentary on racism and race. And this was about that. It was some TV show. Actually, I've seen several, so I'm not sure where it is. But one term kept cropping up again and again, and that was systemic racism. Now, McWhorter is a linguist. He's kind of a traditional, what I call diachronic and synchronic commentator. Okay. Another disadvantage of being outside is the horns, but that's all right. That's not the kind of linguistics that I do. What I do is cognitive linguistics, and cognitive linguistics is focused on the on language and what it means and how brains or computers put the two together, how they try to get meaning out of a sequence of an utterance of words, or how they try to construct utterances to represent particular meaning. That is, of course, a hugely complex issue. And one of the things that cognitive linguists have found out is that all of cognition is involved in doing language. It's not like there's a language engine in the brain and it does all the syntax perfectly. This is what Noam Chomsky maintained, but fortunately he's gone into politics and doesn't say much about linguistics anymore, which is a good thing, because his linguistics were or was completely wet. So this is obviously a very difficult problem to do, because you have a sentence and it can be parsed and understood many ways, reaching sometimes into the thousands for even very simple sentences. And part of our brain, the part that talks mostly and understands things, what we call conscious, whatever that is supposed to mean, has a limitation. It can only think of a few things at once. The number is usually given as Miller's magic number, which is between 5 and 9. And that's not enough to understand all of the ways that you can interpret a single sentence. So what really happens, according to cognitive linguists and scientists, is that a huge amount of the brain pre-processes incoming language and also assists in the process of outgoing language. But let's just think about incoming language, heard language, or read language. And it goes through and figures out many possible interpretations of an utterance. Which ones come to the conscious level? Well, one or two usually. A writer can sit down and think about this, but it takes a long time and it's hard, and while you're thinking about it, you're not thinking about the thing you're discussing. So it's very difficult to do in debates. Politicians, of course, have special tricks that rely upon this to mislead you, but that's a big topic way beyond the course of this. So let's just talk about the term, man, I forgot what the term is already. I was talking about other stuff. See, quod eradam stratum. Systemic racism. Well, that's two words. And when you get two words, you get into category theory, which cognitive scientists also do very well. And the two categories are systemic and racism. I think we're pretty well agreed on what racism is, although there's a question of whether it overlaps with nationalism or tribalism or other such isms, which it does. And that's kind of okay, because racism isn't about anything real. That's what people mean when they say that race is a social construct. It has no objective reality. Maybe a century ago, anthropologists used to talk about race, but they don't anymore, because it is completely unworkable as any kind of realistic category. But we know what racism is. Effectively, we can define race as a lie told by racists. And I recommend, we need to talk more about racism, but we need to stop talking about race, because every time you use the word race, you give validity to these completely arbitrary, completely ideological, completely racist ideas. So it doesn't matter what you say about race, you reinforce racism. Whoopi Goldberg found this out. She said, Jews aren't a race, and of course we aren't. We may be an ethnicity, but that's a different word from race. It was only in the imagination that there was a race called Jews. Really, there's only one race, the human race. So for good cognitive linguistic reasons, I recommend never speaking about races as if they existed.